Well, good morning. Welcome to Agent Circo. Today's instalment is going to show you through evidence and questions the assertions created by both Mr. Goodman and Mr. Hawkins requires analysis and evidence-based research to show that the pair of them are lying. That's right, they are either lying or they're incompetent. They are either or both. There's no middleman in this because we know that Hawkins lies and we know Goodman lies. We've got proof of Goodman lying in the past. So it's absolutely crystal clear now what I'm doing. I'm going to now take another installment of the Hawkins-Goodman banality show or lunacy show and dissect it. And it didn't take long in this latest one. But also what's more revealing and more interesting is how they now don't talk about Christine Marcy anymore. This most odious and hideously evil woman that was the most powerful bureaucrat in the world. Now all of a sudden, crickets. Nada. Zip. Not a thing. Now they have a new target. Except this target is quite easily found. And the information I'm going to reveal now should make you wonder is exactly if you're paying for Goodman's show, what exactly are you paying for? What exactly is it he is producing? Because if he's giving you facts over fiction or whatever, then he's surely going to be, well, see for yourself. Like I said, you're just going to watch what I'm going to show you now. Where do we begin? We begin at the latest episode. Now, the episode before as well I could talk about, but this one I want specifically. There's 3 items in there that need to be talked about. One, where they attack veterans. Again, making out there's something wrong with veterans. There's nothing wrong with us veterans. We're wide awake. We know more than you think we know, and we don't like Billy bullshitters. And that's the problem, you see. We're dealing with 2 Billy bullshitters, and that's why veterans get annoyed. Number 2 was a very interesting story about Hawkins' account being shut down. Well, his account is back up. As we know, we can see it here. His Patreon was never affected. So we know that for a fact. But how to fix your account has been suspended message on your website. So let's go through what the possibilities could have been. You wake up Monday morning to discover the message, your account has been suspended on your website. Uh-oh, what happened? You didn't make any changes to your site over the weekend. You remember visiting your site last night. The page is displayed without any problem. What do you do next? Where do you start? Reasons your site is suspended. First, you need to understand the cause of the message so you can take action and get your site back online. And as quickly as possible, there are many reasons a website is suspended, including lack of payment. One of the most common reasons a site is suspended is due to lack of payment for web hosting. Hosts try to avoid billing issues by sending out email notices to clients ahead of time or setting up automatic payments from customers' credit or debit cards. So that's one way. Server performance. If you're on a shared web hosting and your site is slowing down the performance of other sites on the same server, your account may be suspended by your web host. That's another one there. Or policy violation. If you violated the policies of the web host, your account will be suspended. Your account may have been flagged for spam, a copyright violation, or some other policy. Contact your web host, blah, blah, blah. Or another one is that you might have tried to log into your account and forgotten your password. So it's quite simple explanation. There's nothing nefarious about it. But we know that Hawkins has been revamping his page because this is all now changed in many aspects. What's more important is, oops daisy, about us, as how this wording has changed. Artificial intelligence AI pioneer David Hawkins, inventor of the deductive computing machine and the object-oriented fractal paintbrush. We've had other people prove that that's nonsense. Has launched a website to make the licensed storyboards, pilot scripts, and contextual videos out of the box leaders of TV, movie graphic novels, and virtual reality production companies can join David's 3 avatars, AI Hawk, Truthman, and Good Enough, as they journey through time and space to reverse engineer crime scene investigations, which might be associated with the Zulu time deaths of the 19th century Imperial Brain, i.e. the GPO instrument room in London. But let's go down here. First class honours degree in mechanical engineering, Cambridge University. That's a lie, because what he holds is a BA in industrial management. I've got all that evidence. We've proved all that. But what I want to take us down to is here. Where are we? Oilfield Systems Limited, but it isn't Oilfield Systems Limited. It was another name. There's a word missing out of there. I'll get back. I've got it all recorded anyway. In 1984, Hawkins founded Oilfield Systems Limited UK. 2 years later, designed and built Hesper as a working prototype for the world's first virtual reality deductive computing machine. Hesper is running up for the British Computer Society 1988 Gold Medal Award. Well, we know that's all lies, and we can actually prove that because Hawkins shows us that. Because if you come to here and you click on Hesper, that takes us to deductive computing machine. But luckily for you, I've actually got Hesper, an expert system. That was it, Oilfields Expert Systems. That's what this company was called. So here we have the expert system. That's the guy who invented it, that guy there. That's the DOA thing there. Let's open up that one. Let's open up that one so we can see these people regarding Hesper. A prototype expert system for formation evaluation is introduced, discussed at the beginning with its rationale in its development and presenting Brearley qualitative assessments and tests of its performance. The background definition of petrophysical formation evaluation is clarified and specific geological frame of the Permian Southern Basin of the North Sea in which the system operates is presented with indications of future developments. In other words, it has nothing to do with what Hawkins is saying it has something to do with. This is all to do with petrochemical. So there you have. I wonder if I could get the citation here. Process of geophysical, so he's geophysical engineers. This is the 2 people that created it. And we know this because we've got first-hand combination. But the reason why Hawkins was so upset, so all of this you can see for yourself. You can go in there, link it up for yourself and everything else. But like I said, that exposes that part. Going back to what Hawkins lies. So we prove beyond lies. But it's not just the lies, it's the continuation of the lies. So let me play you something and then we're going to take it further from there.
Individual who possibly fits that description, and you've been speaking about for years. I'm talking about Oliver Buck Revell. David, welcome back to the show. How are you feeling today?
Very good, Jason. It'll be, I think, extremely interesting for this, what we discover on this show.
I think you're right, David, because, a lot of people who are perhaps new to David Hawkins' Discovery CSI and may not realize that you and I are doing a sponsor-exclusive show each week on patreon.com/reverse CSI storyboards. patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Some of the people who aren't yet sponsors or haven't been watching you for years and years, they might not have heard of this guy, Oliver Buck Revell. Before we talk about how his activities could have enabled, inspired, allowed state capture, and I know you're going to explain to us exactly what that is, can you give us a little background on Oliver Buck Revell and why someone so important has been able to remain in the shadows for so long?
Well, I think he's availing himself of a virtual private network to stay behind the curtains, but I'll come to that in a minute. But he first pops up with a high profile in December of 1988, when he rushes onto the tarmac at Heathrow Airport and takes his son and daughter-in-law off. They were about to board Pan Am 103, which was about to be blown up over Lockerbie. Now, I don't know if I fully understand what serendipity it is, but this is not an example. This is an anomaly.
No, Hawkins, you don't understand at all. What you have done there with Mr. Goodman is state a falsehood and a lie. You have produced no evidence of what you have stated there as a statement of fact. We could go on a little bit further because you'll see that, again,
where somehow someone communicated to Oliver Buck Revell it would be a good idea to get his son and daughter-in-law off that plane and save their lives, of course. So there's a huge question mark. And as you know, when I do or try and share with others my crime scene investigation technique, which often goes delving into the patent office to see if there's any patents.
So there you see, they have made that statement and produced no evidence. So, first question I would ask is, there should be evidence that the plane was delayed in its flight and takeoff. So when a plane is delayed, especially if somebody goes onto a plane, it'll be delayed for over an hour because obviously the plane's got to come back, the people have got to go off the plane, then they've got to reset the plane, they can put two people back in its place, then the plane has to wait for a new allotted time to go on the runway. So that's where we're going to go first. I know I'm going to use Wikipedia, which is not my favourite thing to do. But here we have Pan Am 103, a feeder flight from Frankfurt Airport, West Germany, using a Boeing 727. Now, remember, Frankfurt's an important part of this story. But here we go here. Contrary to many popular accounts of the disaster, though repeated with reference below, the flight, which had been scheduled gate departure from departure time of 1800, left Heathrow Airport on time. So there was no delay in this situation. There was no newspaper reports of a guy running onto the tarmac and removing his son and daughter-in-law. Here we have some things on pictures. I don't know what ninja chucks are there, but Pan Am jet crash hit on Iran, Shah of Iran aiding Pan Am. So it gets really, really interesting as to what's going on here because there's no evidence of this happening. Yet Hawkins with Goodman have stated that. Here we have Oliver Buck Revell in 2019 doing talk shows. So the guy does exist. He's got his own podcast. He's got books out. So let's go here. So
able to essentially go back to headquarters and tell them that there was no ongoing activity by the Bush campaign to take any action against Perot, and it looked like this was entirely a fabrication on the part of Barnes and perhaps Taylor.
Why?
Right, and so I told them that the headquarters that I was going to send agents out.
So you can listen to that at your own pleasure, on own time, but that is actual Oliver Buck Revell talking, this ex-G-man. So he's not on hiding. You can find him online quite easily. Let's go a bit further. Here we have another site which I pulled up. Cover-up team explains why I want the truth out about I will Buckwell, Fred Dougal, Richard Melquist, Sir John Obama to stop inhumanity. It makes no sense. Blah, blah, blah. Tell the Lockerbie truth. But doesn't mention in here that he stopped the plane. This is somebody who's also there. Pan Am just crash hit, called a hit for Iran, Shah of Iran. So we have all this information. What we don't have is documented proof that this guy stopped the plane. Another blog spot recently. Father Lockerbie victim supports coronavirus memorial care campaign. So as you can see here, this is a blog site which deals with Pan Am. It's dedicated to it. I've gone through it, and it's more about the Libyan guy than anything else, which is quite interesting. But here we have a horrible site, which is the Daily Beast, but Hollywood's Pan Am 103 Truthers. And we'll go down here. Retired FBI agent who led the US task force during the Lockerbie investigation and was written extensively about the case, said Sheridan seems to be aligning himself with 10,000 conspiracy theories, none of which has been tested in court. It's a bunch of speculations and hypotheses. I feel that bad that somebody is going to stake his reputation on it. Maybe they will sell it a movie, but it wouldn't be the truth. Retired FBI official Oliver Buck-Revel, the Bureau's Associate Deputy Director who rode herd on the American end of the Lockerbie well, hang on a minute. Didn't Hawkins say that Buck-Revel was in London? Well, this is the Daily Beast, and it's saying that Buck-Revel was in America. So that's the second part exposed there. So we've got no flight delay. Buck-Revel was quite easily found, and Buck-Revel was in America. What also is that Oliver Buck-Revel sued this guy, David Hoffman, because this is where the story originates from. Several minutes before the Flight 103 took off from London Heathrow Airport, FBI Assistant Director rushed out to the tarmac and pulled his son and daughter-in-law off the plane. A number of VIPs were pulled off that plane, and a number of intelligence operatives were pulled off that plane. South African President Pieter and several high-ranking officials were advised by state security forces to change their reservations at the last hour. The South African state security forces have a close relationship with the CIA, as in Oklahoma City. So this is the guy that's made this story up. This is where it's come from. So he took him to court. Ex-FBI official loses lawsuit over Oklahoma City bombing text, not libelous, federal judge says, because the libel laws in America are very, very difficult to prove. An issue was an accusation in the book that Revel had advanced knowledge of the 1988 bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Scotland and personally pulled his son and daughter-in-law off the plane on the tarmac of London Airport. Revel was in Washington, D.C., and he insists he didn't know beforehand of the bomb on the plane. His son, though, briefly booked on the ill-fated flight, had left a week earlier. His daughter-in-law was in the United States. So his daughter-in-law was in the United States. His son was in Frankfurt, Germany, and he left a week earlier. Lawsuit over bombing of Flight 103 dismissed. In the book by David M. Hoffman, said Rowell prior knowledge to the bombing pulled his son and daughter off a plane in London. Rowell said his son was briefly booked on the flight and left London a week earlier. His daughter-in-law was in the United States. So again, here we have more proof in here of what's the fact of this. The Observer, former FBI second-in-command Oliver Buck-Revel of Dallas, regularly makes his rounds on the network and cable TV shows to talk about everything from internet security to international terrorism, a 30-year FBI veteran and international security consultant who authored the well-received autobiography A G-Man's Journal. He is a respected and knowledgeable quote for all things law enforcement. Ravel has gained a less savoury reputation among another group of people, conspiracy buffs, who pegged the former lawman of the 1988 bombing of Pan Am 103 over Lockerbie, which he helped investigate, as well as Waco, Iran-Contra and Oklahoma City mysteries. They alleged that Ravel, then the FBI's counter-terrorism chief, failed to share a prior warning of the bombings with the American public, but he did it personally to get his son off the doomed flight, a charge Ravel angrily denies. Okay? The outspoken critic of Revel is Hart G. Doliver, a medical researcher at the facility of the Harvard School of Medicine, whose girlfriend was killed in the crash. He doesn't buy U.S. associates that Libyan operatives retaliating for the 1986 bombings of Tripoli, ordered by President Reagan, were to blame. Instead, he fits Revel into a constellation of intrigue connected to the Iran-Contra scandal, accusing him of a treacherous betrayal of American citizens whom he took an oath to protect. So, during this time, FBI referred across surveillance where I was involved in subterfuge against America, disturbed what he felt slander. He asked his Justice Department for his permission to sue the authors, but they turned him down, saying the lawsuits would only bring attention to fringe critics of the government. Now a private citizen, Revel is finally striking back against the charges, which he says emanate from a nutty fringe, the lack of one scintilla of truth in a $10 million defamation lawsuit filed last month in Dallas Federal District Court against Lidvov of the Columbia University Board of Trustees and the Columbia School of Journalism. He vehemently repudiates Lidvov's assertions and excoriates CGR for publishing it. So to suggest that Mr. Ravel, a man who devoted his whole life to honourable service of his country, stooped to an involvement in murders, cover-ups and criminal misdirection, the FBI investigation into Pan Am bombings to frame Libyan nationals instead of identifying the real culprits is nothing less than substituting fiction for journalism, the lawsuit says. So you can read the article yourself, because I'll link it below. Here's a bit here. This is what I wanted to find. He says his son's wife changed the flight before Thanksgiving 3 weeks prior to the warning. His daughter-in-law had also spoken out on Amazon.com reader comments page for Ravel's book. I read a statement last year to set the record straight about speculation about that his father saved Christopher's life and not others. So if you go, so here, our State Departments eventually deemed that warnings are hoax and never notified the FBI according to Revel's lawsuit. But the article accuses Revel of heeding the Helsinki warning to save his son Christopher, a military officer stationed in Germany, who was booked on the fatal flight to come home for Christmas. Revel blatantly denies the charge, which the lawsuit deems a well-refuted canard. Chris had more leave time than he had first thought and asked me to get him a direct flight from Frankfurt to Washington, D.C. So instead of stopping in London, he had a direct flight. So he could spend more time at home, she said. I can assure you, it wasn't anticipated terrorism that was motivating him to return early. Nice, nice, wink, wink. So basically, I'll link this below. We'll listen to that bit again.
Or haven't been watching you for years and years, they might not have heard of this guy, Oliver Buck Ravel. Before we talk about how his activities could have enabled, inspired, allowed state capture, and I know you're going to explain to us exactly what that is, can you give us a little background on Oliver Buck Ravel and why someone so important has been able to remain in the shadows for so long?
Well, I think he's availing himself of a virtual private network to stay behind the curtains, but I'll come to that in a minute. But he first pops up with a high profile in December of 1988, when he rushes onto the tarmac at Heathrow Airport and takes his son and daughter-in-law off. They were about to board Pan Am 103, which was about to be blown up over Lockerbie.
So you heard it for yourself there. Hawkins himself literally stated quite clearly that he pulled off the plane. But there's another twist in this story, you see, because if these two had done their research properly and given people the option of all sides of the equation, this wouldn't give the clickbait, wouldn't give necessary story to this. So what I'm going to do is come to here. I think it's this one. No, it's not. It's this one. So like I said, the extra, but this is an important article in here, in this part here. I draw the line. I don't mind criticism. People are entitled to their opinions. But I will not be accused of crimes, and I will defend myself using the law anytime anyone crosses that line. The book's publishers, Feral House Incorporated, agreed in 1999 to destroy all copies because of the inaccuracies. The author, David M. Hoffman, admitted last year he had made mistakes on details and said he shouldn't have he should have called Revell, but Hoffman said, I still hold to the essential facts of what I reported. Financial backer Alex Beamer said the authors made a gross blunder by not restricting the book to the Oklahoma City bombing. Magnus said he was resentful Hoffman would confuse people with nonsense like that when he said that when he should have been focusing only on the Mura building. Magnus began funding research into alternative theories into the 1995 attack to see if he could contribute prevented reoccurrences. He disagrees with the official explanation for the destruction, a single truck bomb. So this is your conspiracy theories going on here, people. And Hoffman was the guy that created one of the biggest ones. And all the copies of the book were destroyed because of the inaccuracies within it. Even though Revell lost his lawsuit on libel, the book was destroyed because it was inaccurate. It put falsehoods in there. So again, going back to these two buffoons, both Goodman and Hawkins, and to the 8,000 people that nearly watched this, and maybe more, is this question. Why did you deliberately mislead the viewing public with this lie? It's not the first time Hawkins has lied, or his former compadre, Phil McConnell. But I shall leave you with that, and I have got another surprise coming midweek of a little compilation video of Hawkins' lies and questions with a stunning piece of evidence to show how McConnell was always a liar. Perfectly put together. I'm working on that at the moment. So, for now, I will link all this below, but to the pics.